of scope. Scope is what we are doing, and in this journey we get one of the most important things, scope baseline, on which we will measure, are we doing good, are we doing bad, all those things will be measured by scope baseline. How the scope baseline is created, I will answer all these questions in this video. The first and most important thing is that we need to know that first we have requirements. First we have requirements, how the project is going to start, from where all these things have occurred, and what are the requirement of the project. In Agile we say that as a user I want this thing so that this can happen, a user story syntax, so that's a requirement. So requirement is what are the things we want to have. Requirement can be stakeholder requirement, it can be solution requirement, functional requirement, things that must be present in the project, non-functional requirement, solution requirement, transition requirement, all those types of requirements are there. So we captured all those requirements utilizing techniques as brainstorming, focus group, facilitated workshop, prototyping, context diagram, Delphi technique, value stream mapping. The purpose is whatever you do, you collect the requirement. So once you have collected the requirement, you get requirement documentation, which describe what are the types of requirement, who has given requirement, and all those things. And you get requirement traceability matrix, a matrix that shows the linkage from start to end of the requirement, where requirement is right now, what is the status of requirement, why do we only need this requirement, which project objective this requirement is going to satisfy. All these things will be answered by requirement traceability matrix. A very important distinction between requirement documentation and requirement traceability matrix. Requirement documentation describes all the types of requirement, functional, non-functional. Requirement traceability matrix can basically trace from where this requirement has come, what is the current status of this requirement, who requested it, all those things. So we made requirement documentation, requirement traceability matrix to these tools and technique. Guys, these tools and technique are very important for PMP, because this is how these tools and technique will be used in so many other areas. So do master these tools and technique. And if you want me that I make a specific journey or a specific video only on these tools and technique, just put in the comment, I will make it. Then all these requirements are being collected on the basis of requirement management plan. So requirement management plan is how you collect the requirement, manage the requirement, all those things are basically tackled in requirement management plan. So once all the requirement has been made, the next step is basically to filter the requirement. In my wording, I would say putting Moscow on the requirement. So which of the requirement are must have, you have to have. Let's say we collected all the requirement comes in, okay, from requirement documentation, requirement traceability matrix. Now you put a requirement filter on it, a scope filter on it, okay. Only the requirements that can pass the scope filter will go into and become the part of the scope. So requirements are more, you can say requirements may be 10,000 and scope may be only 100 things. So this difference can be that huge. So you collect all the requirement comes here, you put it a filter here. Let me call this filter more of a Moscow, must have, okay, these are the must requirement we should need, should requirement, could requirement, things like that. So whatever the things passes through this scope filter, okay, we call all those things that pass, we get our project scope statement. Project scope statement. Now this is the document that will have everything in the project. Everything that you are going to make must be present in this project scope statement. Assumption, constraint, anything that is not present, that you are not going to make. So it will make a boundary, what is included, what is not included, assumption, constraint, everything. So one of the tool and technique that we use in order to make project scope statement from requirements is product breakdown. product description, value analysis. We basically put Moscow other techniques to see how we can break down the product and still get that thing. Okay, so product breakdown, product description, value analysis, value engineering, all those things are used to see what is the cost effective method to produce that specific product. So once you have project scope statement, okay, now then comes the next level. We have project scope statement with us. Okay, PSS we will call it. Project scope statement is with us. Now we will move the next step. Now, next step is we need to break down the entire work and create WBS. Work breakdown structure. Let's say we are making a Lamborghini car, the one we use in the previous of our batch 11. Okay, so we break down the work further. We can do this, but I'm just focusing on one right now, just to make it sense. Okay, let's say we are going to make a car. Okay, so car need chassis, car need fabrication, car need paint job, car need other things, etc., etc. So you can say assembly. Okay, so chassis, you need the bottom part, upper part, left hand part, then you divide it further, this one further. So purpose is basically to break down the structure in that you can understand. The purpose is that you can master this thing. Guys, this is very important. According to Lee Lombardi, the founder, one of the founders of PMP, he said that there are two critical things that a project manager must know. Does not matter it's agile or predictive. One of them is work breakdown structure. What is second, I will tell in the next video. So you make a work breakdown structure, the entire work, everything you need to do. One of the important rule of thumb of work breakdown structure is when you sum up the entire work, when you sum up from bottom to up, it must give you 100% of the work. 100% of the work must be there. Okay, so let's give them a number as basically we do. We called it 1, this 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. We can call it more of a 1.1.1, this is 1.1.2, 1.1.3, this is more of a 1.1.2.1, 1.1.2.2, 1.1.2.3. Okay, now if I ask you go and work on maybe 1.1.2.3, you will not understand what does even that means. For that we have work breakdown structure dictionary. WBS dictionary is going to tell us each and everything, what do we have in that thing, what we need to make, what are the assumptions, what are the entire work, each and everything detail about all the WBS. So let's come back to WBS. This is basically called as control account. This high level is called as control account. This is the account at which management is controlling. This is the account where the management is interested how the work is being going to done. This is called as control account. The lowest thing on which we do all the calculation is basically called as work package. So work package is something in which we are working on it, and all the estimation is gonna do, the execution team is gonna work on it. Control account, work package. And sometimes we have intermediate a package between that is called as a planning package. This is mostly used by the planning team. Control account used by the management. The work package, the most important thing in the project, is basically used by the execution team. Everything will be done in this. We are going to break down further. Here it is the lowest package, but we are going to break down this work package into activities, basically sequence all these things, but that will come later. And this is a planning package. These numbers, they are called as code of account. Okay, so we have a lot of information here. Project scope statement, WBS. Okay, project scope statement was something, the entire work you have done, it's a project scope statement. Hierarchical breakdown of the structure is work breakdown structure. These numbers are called code of account. Then we have work package, and then we have work breakdown structure dictionary. This mixture of work breakdown structure dictionary, project scope statement, work breakdown structure dictionary, work breakdown structure, all once it get approved, it goes to management. Once it get approved, we get our scope baseline. This is called as scope baseline. Now once the scope baseline is made, it has been made, now all the work is being done according to this baseline, and our goal is that there is no scope creep unintended added into the scope. We don't want that. We are avoiding the scope creep. Scope creep is when customer says, okay, also do this, also do that, without going to the change control procedure. So that's why we have an entire change control procedure to stop scope creep. Another term that is used as a gold plating. We give something to the customer that he has not asked additional feature. For example, if the customer asks for Honda, we gave them a BMW. So we have given more than they have requested. It's called gold plating. Both are considered a bad thing in scope. So this becomes scope baseline, and you control this. One other important thing in the scope topic is basically the journey of deliverable. Journey of deliverable kind of ends here. We know that deliverable that was produced in execution, it goes to control quality, and it becomes, if it is accepted, it becomes a verified deliverable. If it is rejected, it becomes more of a change request. You need to do corrective action, preventive action, defect repair. If the verified deliverables come into the scope, we have a process, validate scope. It is a process where basically with client we show the deliverable. The client will check the deliverable. The client will basically inspect the deliverable, verify according to the scope baseline. Now in the quality, we were checking the deliverable against quality management plan. In scope with the client, we are going to check deliverables according to the scope baseline, according to the approved scope baseline. So remember this thing. This is the most important thing if you are working in a project. What is your scope baseline? If something is not in the scope baseline, we are not going to produce. So if the customer says, let's say that we ask this feature, it is not present, what to do? Look into the scope baseline, look into the project scope statement, was that there? If not, this scope baseline is also approved by sponsor, customer, all those people. If it is not there, it is right, it should not be there. But if you have made something that is not in the scope baseline, or if you have made something that is missing in the scope baseline, then it will become a change request, and we need to do corrective action, preventive action, defect repair after approval from change control board. And once the deliverable is approved by validated scopes, it is called as accepted deliverable. It is called as accepted deliverable. And here completes our journey of scope. Guys, this journey of scope is very important in current PMP. Understanding the flow, how each things match, how we collect the requirement using requirement management plan as an oversee, and then we collect the requirement to the and put them into requirement documentation and requirement traceability metrics through various tools and technique like brainstorming, focus group, facilitated prototype, context diagram. We make requirement documentation, requirement traceability metrics. Once that is done, we put a filter of scope and we get project scope statement. Then we divide the deliverable, we get WBS dictionary, work package, and all those things, and we make our scope baseline, and all those requirements are controlled by requirement management plan. How scope is done, how scope will be controlled, it is controlled by scope management plan. And then finally we validate the scope where we accept the deliverable. This is very important, what I said in last 40 seconds. If you just understand this, you know scope, and if you know scope, you know a lot of things. So we have made many journeys in previous 2 weeks. We have done change request, we have done quality, risk, stakeholder, communication, procurement. So if you have not watched, do watch them. They are very important for exam. My goal is through these journeys videos give you a final revision, and through using coaching calls, if you watch journeys videos, coaching calls, you will be able to clear the entire PMP. I'm making a big claim, but that is something which we are referring to our own student as a final day revisions and all those things, and we are giving it here for everyone because I am big believer of karma. More you give, the more you come back. One more thing, if you have not subscribed to our channel, do subscribe it, because as you can see we are putting more and more content. Last night we did coaching call, today I'm putting this journey, tomorrow another coaching call, then another on Saturday we have a free coaching call of 3 hours. So if you have not subscribed, you will miss all those things. So subscribe the channel and click that bell icon so you don't miss anything. Thank you very much. live with passion, and if you have not become PMP, I highly recommend work on it and become PMP. Bye bye.